Hey, it's Paul Canner. I'm going to talk today about something we probably don't want to talk about. It's not death and taxes or taxes, but it is divorce and separation. And we're starting to see a little bit more of this, just a lot of it's just based on economic conditions. And I believe the majority or close to the majority of divorces are financial related through finance, reason for finance. So when the economy slows, inflation's hitting, we're starting to see an uptick in divorce situations and a lot of things to deal with. Family matters, obviously most important, but a lot of folks kind of trust each other on the finances, and we've seen some really bad horror stories down the road. Oftentimes, it's not so far down the road. We have one spouse that wants to keep the house, and they've agreed to that, and the other one wants to purchase a house, but the mortgage is joint. The one spouse who's keeping the house, let's say here it's going to be a husband, and his wife is going to go buy another house. She may need that equity out of the house to buy the other house, or B, we can't qualify her with both payments. Now, if it's been a year, there's a separation agreement in place, and we can show the husband has been paying that mortgage payment from a non-joint account through canceled checks or payment logs, then we can qualify the wife in most loan products without counting that mortgage. However, we have run into some situations 10 plus years down the road. In one particular case, I was working with a guy looking to buy a house. He was divorced for about 12 years. The wife took over the payments on the house. They had no kids. She had no family that was left living. And he hadn't heard from her in years and years and years. And when we go to pull the credit, we see the mortgage is currently over 5 months behind and foreclosure proceedings started. And he said, yeah, I got some kind of weird thing in the mail about that. And so this is something that we have to count against him. We couldn't find her, and now we've got a mortgage, so we can't qualify him for a mortgage, even though he's got, well, I've got this piece of paper here in the divorce agreement, separation agreement. She's responsible. That's great. You can go and, explain to him, you can go after your ex-wife when you find her, to pay you the difference, but you're liable on the mortgage. The lender's going to look to you. Therefore, the foreclosure hits your credit. So we want to avoid these situations. Obviously, nobody thinks they're going to happen. So you want to separate everything. When you do a separation, you make it clean. Any joint credit card accounts need to be paid off. Any joint loans need to be paid off and or refinanced. So when we're looking at, typically the largest assets, obviously we talked about, can we get somebody to buy a house while they're, separated but not divorce final? The answer is yes, as long as we have a separation agreement in place. So that is fine. But a lot of times we also, need that current mortgage to be refinanced for the other spouse to get his share so he could go ahead and buy a house. So most people think that math is pretty straightforward and simple, meaning that all we have to do is, in this particular case, we've got a $500,000 house. The loan is a $200,000 balance. I simply need $300,000 back, but it's not quite that simple, because if we were truly to split the assets, in that particular case, we had a house value of $500,000. Now, if neither were keeping the house, you'd have to sell the house. You'd pay some various selling expenses, real estate commission. There's some grantor's tax, maybe some small repairs. So that's what we call that $30,000 of expenses. So that's the value. These are the selling costs. So if they were selling the house, there would be $470,000 from the sale, just from the sale. Then we have to pay off the existing mortgage of a $200,000 balance, which would leave $270,000. They each would get $135,000 each. So that $135,000 is what do we have the husband buying the house from the wife? He would have to pay her. So how do we calculate the loan amount here? Well, we know right off the bat is we have to pay off the existing mortgage of $200,000. We have $135,000 for the buyout. And we have $10,000 for prepaid items, closing costs, just transaction expenses. So that's going to give us, if I can do my math right, is $345,000 is the new loan amount. And I'll make that a little bit clearer. So this is what the husband would do. A lot of times we can treat this as a purchase as opposed to cash out refinance, which is a whole lot cheaper because we're buying out the interest of one of the parties. So the other thing that sometimes we'll see is there may have been a retirement account that the spouse keeping the house has that the other spouse had agreed, through the separation agreement to get a percentage of that. So we may add that to the amount of the buyout, which is all fine. We don't have to split it evenly. So, nobody wants to go through these, especially, in the cases where you have a low interest rate, because we did a refinance or purchase about a year ago when rates were really low. They're about half of what they are right now. But it's more important to keep your emotional and, personal life straight and separated when these things happen. So anyway, if you have somebody, or you're going through a separation, give us a call. We'll be glad to work through the scenarios with you. Take care. Bye-bye.